everybody here. This morning we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to showcase a part of the message through a video that Pastor Ave and I created together. It's a lot of fun, based on a children's story called The Terrible Chenoo. This is a story about loving the hardest person. But before I say any more, I'd like for you to watch it and listen for yourselves. So without further ado, The Terrible Chenoo.
The Terrible Chenoo, a story from North America, retold by Fran Parnell and illustrated by Sophie Fettis. Long, long ago in North America, there lived a man and his wife. One autumn, they decided to go on a hunting trip. They left their tribe and traveled far away to the northwest. When they found a clearing in the pine forest, they set up their teepee. "We will stay here for the winter," the man and his wife agreed. Every day, the man went off to hunt. While he was hunting, his wife prepared the meat so that they would have lots to eat during the long winter. All went well for a time. The weather was fine and there was plenty of wild animals to hunt. The husband and wife were happy. One breezy day, while the man was hunting, the woman went to gather more wood for the fire. Suddenly, there was a whoosh. The woman heard a sharp whistle of wind. She felt an icy gust on her face. There was a strange rustling noise in the bushes nearby. The woman looked up, and what she saw was terrible. A monster was staring and glaring at her. It was an evil Chenoo. He was as old as earth. He had eyes like a starving wolf and sharp, pointed teeth like a bear. His cruel heart was colder than ice. It thumped in his chest like a booming drum. The Chenoo had traveled from the far, far north. He had flown on the frosty wind, and the long journey had made him hungry, very, very hungry. In fact, he was starving. What he wanted was a bite of nice, juicy meat. The woman trembled all over with fear. The woman was afraid, but she was also very clever. She was as clever as a fox. She did not want to be the Chenoo's next meal, so she thought of a plan. She dropped her firewood onto the ground and threw her arms around the old Chenoo. She gave him a great big hug. She pretended to be surprised and happy to see him. "Father," she cried, "what a wonderful surprise! How well you look, and how good of you to travel all this way to visit us." Then she took a step backwards and looked him up and down. A puzzled look crossed her face. "But what has happened to your clothes, Father? You must be frozen through. Come into the teepee and warm yourself up." And chattering away, she took the monster's hand and led him out of the bushes. The Chenoo was very surprised. He had eaten plenty of people before. Usually they screamed or tried to run off or fainted before he gobbled them up. But this woman did none of those things. The Chenoo was so surprised that he forgot all about eating the woman. He followed her like a child into the teepee. Then he let her dress him in a deerskin shirt, leather trousers, and a fine pair of moccasins. Soon he was wrapped up as snugly as a baby in a papoose. "There now, Father, isn't that better?" asked the woman. "I'll just go and collect some sticks to build up the fire. With a good bright blaze, your old bones will be warm again in no time." The woman scurried out of the teepee, but soon her knees were trembling again because the terrible Chenoo picked up an axe and followed her outside. "Oh dear," the woman exclaimed, "he's going to chop me up." The Chenoo held the axe and followed the woman outside, but he did not chop her up. Instead, he began to chop down the tall forest trees. He chopped and he chopped. The huge pine trees toppled easily around him. It was as if he was just cutting down blades of grass. The woman watched in wonder. Soon the Chenoo had chopped down half the forest. Finally the woman shouted, "Enough, father! We have enough wood now!" The Chenoo stopped chopping. He did not say a word. He began to pick up the fallen trees and pile them neatly behind the teepee. Just then the woman saw her husband coming. He was walking in and out of the trunks of the fallen trees. He looked around in amazement. Quickly the woman went over to him. She wanted to talk to him before the monster saw him. She told her husband what had happened. So, when the husband walked up to the Chenoo, he knew just what to say. "Father-in-law," he cried, "how kind of you to travel all this way to see us. I have caught enough food today for all of us. We can have a splendid meal while you tell us the news from home." The Chenoo stayed silent when they all sat down to eat. The husband and wife were still terrified of the monster, but they ate well. While they ate, they chatted about their tribe. They gossiped about this and that. They wondered what their family and friends were doing. Were they all safe and well? The man and his wife offered the monster fresh meat, dried pumpkin, and hot corn coffee, but the Chenoo did not eat. He just listened to their talk. Slowly, a gentle look appeared on his terrible face. He had never had a family or any friends. Chenoos attacked each other whenever they met. They would scream and screech angrily. Their bodies would grow huge until their heads touched the clouds. They would fight for days and days. The sky thundered and the earth shook with their screams. The noise was so terrible that you could hear it 1,000 miles away. The people in the south would lie awake at night with their teeth chattering, listening to the terrible noise. The winner of the Chenoo battle would leap onto one of the strong winds that blew through the land. He would fly off to find another monster to fight or a trembling human to eat. But something very strange happened to this Chenoo as he listened to the man and the woman. They had welcomed the Chenoo into their home. They had given him clothes and offered him food. His heart danced for joy when they spoke to him gently and called him father. He could not believe it. The monster's icy heart was warmed by their kindness. All his cruel and violent thoughts disappeared. He stopped wanting to eat people. There and then he decided that he wanted to stay with them for the rest of his life. The Chenoo lived with the man and woman from then on. They were surprised, but soon they were no longer afraid of the monster. In fact, he no longer seemed to be a monster to them. He was very friendly and helpful. He helped the man to hunt wild animals, and he helped the woman to chop firewood. Soon, winter came. The snow was too deep to hunt, so the Chenoo helped the man to make new arrows. He also helped the woman to make new clothes. The woman and the Chenoo sewed beads and porcupine quills onto the clothes. In the long winter evenings, they all huddled by the fire under thick blankets. The Chenoo made up magical stories and told them to the wife and her husband. The man and woman began to love the old Chenoo. The Chenoo was like a true member of their family. When spring came again, the snow on the pine trees melted and the river thawed. The man and the woman prepared to return to their tribe. The Chenoo went with them. He carried the teepee on his back and walked along with huge monster steps. As they went further and further south, the Chenoo's steps got shorter and shorter. He became weaker and weaker. The warm spring air in the south took his strength away. The woman and the man begged him to return to his home. However, the Chenoo had changed too much to go back. Besides, he had promised to stay with the man and woman forever. So he walked on. As they got closer to the man and woman's tribe, the Chenoo was too tired and too weak to walk, so the man and the woman carried the old Chenoo between them. When they reached the tribe, all the people gathered around the monster in wonder. His face had once been terrible to look at. Now it was peaceful, so the people were not afraid of him. In fact, everyone did their best to help the Chenoo. But he was old and tired, and the warm southern air was wearing him away. At last his frozen heart thawed out completely. The Chenoo died, but he died the happiest Chenoo in the land. He had found something that no other Chenoo had found before. He had found true friendship.
Did you guys enjoy watching that? We had so much fun making that little video. I just wanted to recap the story a little bit. In the terrible Chenoo, a devil comes to a husband and wife, and instead of running for fear and getting gobbled up, the couple strategized to save themselves. They decide to welcome the devil, honoring him and calling him father. They feed and clothe him, and his frozen heart begins to melt. He's educated in the way of love. He begins to love them, and they begin to love him. He becomes a part of them. And together, they positively influence others. In the end, his frozen heart melts away completely and he dies. He is liberated, as are also the people who, before meeting him, were consumed by their fear. They never thought to see the Chenoo as a member of their family. So what's the moral of the story? Love our enemies. We can overcome any problem with love and compassion. Embrace your fears. In the Bible it states, where there is love, there is no fear. The power of love reigns over any fears we may have. The courage to love results in great miracles and changes in ourselves and others. When I heard this story, at first I thought, well, how does it really apply to us? We don't have, terrible monsters that are going to gobble us up. Right? We're not living in this country. We don't have a lot of things that make us fear about our day-to-day safety, or maybe we do. This world, right? But at the same time, where's the practical application for us? We don't face life and death situations on a day-to-day basis like the characters in the story. But at the same time, we do face others on a daily basis. Others that may push our buttons, cause us to lose our tempers. For us, the hardest person to love may change from day to day, from hour to hour. But the point here is, how much can we recognize such a person from Heavenly Parent's point of view? How much can we invite them into our hearts completely, give all that we can, and eventually create a genuine, loving relationship? And I also want to add, because of the conflict within our mind and body, we can also relate this story to being consumed by fears within ourselves. We can often be our own worst enemy. We need to be open, loving, and unconditional with what we feel are our biggest fears, our biggest shortcomings, or downfalls. And in time, these can actually become our greatest strengths and even our greatest victories. So in thinking about loving the hardest person, I found some quotes from our true Father. This is from The Way of God's Will. This is the 3rd chapter entitled Heart. And actually, in your bulletin, I superimposed some of these words of Father onto a picture from the story. And also, I'm going to display them up on the screen. So actually, for this last part of the service, I wanted to get your participation. So what I did is I put these little post-it notes with a heart on the back of some chairs. And if you're in front of one of those hearts, okay, then you're going to be a reader, okay? So I'm still looking for the wireless mic. Okay, I'm going to walk around, and I know that I planted some. All right, Mr. Kondo, could you read from the first?
God wishes to visit every corner of the world He created, but especially wants to visit those places in which His children are sincerely preparing a foundation of loyalty. As the children of God, therefore, you must prepare near the end of the world and then invite Him.
Okay, another reader.
Be a hero of love and a hero of heart. No matter how great a man or woman you may be, you will be a failure unless you conquer the heart of man, woman.
Okay, I'm going to read this here.
God always guides God always guides those who impress Him through their life of motherly heart. The children of God are the pride of His heart.
Okay, another reader.
The more love acts, the more it increases. Therefore, eternity comes from love alone. You must develop the character which can absorb all characteristics of God.
Stella, you just have it again.
Resurrection comes in the springtime. Resurrection comes in the springtime garden of love. In the environment of such deep love for yourselves seems to be melting in the springtime.
Another reader?
You can serve God with all your sincerity, not because you have learned it from someone who guides or forces you, but because that kind heart automatically springs forth from you. Loyalty, filial piety, and chastity are not matter of education.
There is no problem which is not solved if you cope with it in the light of Heavenly Father's heart.
There is no problem which is not solved if you cope with it in the light of Heavenly Father's heart.
Thank you. Repeat.
If you want to become a son of God, you have to resemble God's heart. Since God's heart is planted in the world, you have to love the people of the world.
Love can sense new beauty, so it is not concerned about whom to love.
Do you have one more?
You cannot feel someone's heart only by knowing him. In order to understand his heart, you have to love him and live together with him.
Right. All right, so how about we have the band come on out again? I hope that each of you could take these words into your heart. I felt that they were really appropriate for today, for Heavenly Parents' Day, and also as we think about Valentine's Day and really loving not only your neighbor, but also loving the hardest person. So if everyone could please rise and join me in prayer. Our dearest, most beloved Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, thank you so much for this new morning. Thank you for the chance to come together, to spend this quality time together. Church is a great excuse for us to really see each other and spend time. And at the same time, I hope that after this gathering, we don't just fade away into our own little corner, but we really reach out and support each other, uplift each other, and that we continue to carry your message with us in the following days. We're so grateful to be able to catch a glimpse of your heart, to have just one iota of understanding through our true parents, and to feel so empowered to grow and to continue to learn and inherit your heart. Thank you again for each person here. Thank you for the time that we can spend together, and also as we celebrate this Heavenly Parents' Day together with you. And pray that we can really keep this message in our hearts. I pray all these things uplifting the name of our true parents, and in the names of Abraham and Mika, Deshotel, the blessings of our family. Adieu.
All right, let's sing Great Are You, Lord.